Hey there. Your brain, it's an absolute marvel of engineering, right? But here's the thing, it's also running some pretty wild, buggy software. It's just loaded with these weird shortcuts and hidden features that can really trip you up. So today, we're going to dig in. We're going to explore that source code.
Have you ever really felt like your brain is just glitching out on you? That moment when your mind just does something totally bizarre, something you have absolutely no control over? Like, I don't know, maybe a song that gets stuck in your head and just refuses to leave? Oh, yeah, the infamous earworm. It's that tiny little snippet of a jingle, or maybe just one line from a chorus, that your brain decides, you know what? Let's put this on a cursed, never ending loop. And it goes on for hours, sometimes even days. And the worst part is trying not to think about it just makes it louder. It is, without a doubt, one of the most common glitches in the human operating system. But believe me, earworms are just the tip of the iceberg. So for this explainer, think of us as your friendly neighborhood tech support for the mind. We're going to take a look at the glitches that literally bend reality, the mental traps that mess with your thinking, and what all of this means for, becoming a better user of your own brain. All right, first up, let's dive into those moments when your brain's perception of the world just gets seriously weird. And I'm not talking about just feeling off. These are actual neurological events where the world around you can literally look, feel, and even sound completely different. I want you to just imagine this for a second. All of a sudden, your legs feel like they're 6 feet long, the ceiling in your room seems a mile high, the whole space around you just becomes elastic. This isn't a dream sequence from a movie. It's a very real and very disorienting neurological condition. Yeah, it's actually called Alice in Wonderland syndrome, and it is a perfect example of a perceptual glitch. It's like your brain's internal measuring tape is just completely broken. You still know where things are, but your sense of their size and their distance from you goes totally haywire. It's usually temporary, but man, is it a powerful reminder that what you perceive isn't reality itself. It's just your brain's simulation of it. Okay, now let's talk about a glitch that I'm willing to bet you've actually experienced yourself. You spend, say, a few hours playing a game, or maybe organizing a bunch of files on your computer, or even just mindlessly scrolling. And then, when you finally stop and close your eyes, you can still see it, can't you? The blocks are still falling. The tiles are still swapping. That, my friends, is the Tetris effect.
So what is going on here? Well, it's basically like your brain has developed muscle memory, but for your eyes. Your brain just loves patterns so much that it keeps running the simulation, even when you've told it to stop. It's trying to be efficient, trying to optimize a task, but it just gets stuck in this loop. It's totally harmless, but it's a really fascinating glitch that shows just how automated our minds can be.
Okay, so we've talked about glitches in perception. Now let's shift gears and move on to the traps in our thinking. See, these aren't about seeing the world differently, but about thinking about it in some pretty flawed ways. And these are the bugs that affect our beliefs and our decisions every single day. Let's kick this off with a really big one, confirmation bias. Now, what's so interesting here is the contrast. We all like to think we're on the left side of this chart, right? We're seeking the truth, like some kind of detective. But our brain's default setting, it's almost always on the right. It doesn't actually want to be accurate. It just wants to feel right. It's a mental shortcut that unfortunately builds echo chambers around us. And this quote just nails the problem perfectly. We think we're being so logical, but really it's an emotional process. It's like we're running this background software that has one simple command. Never, ever admit you might be wrong. We end up filtering reality just to protect our existing beliefs, which feels safe, sure, but it also stops us from learning and growing. All right, next up is a trap that keeps millions, and I mean millions of people stuck. Stuck in jobs they hate, relationships that are failing, projects they despise. It's the sunk cost fallacy. This is that little voice in your head that whispers, hey, you've come too far to quit now, even when you are heading straight for a cliff. Just think about it. Imagine someone who absolutely hates their law career, but they've already spent a fortune on law school. Look, that money's gone. It's spent. Staying miserable in that job doesn't get you a refund. It just adds misery interest to the debt. This trap makes us honor our past decisions at the expense of our future happiness. The totally rational move is to cut your losses and move on, but our brain just hates to admit that a past investment might have been a waste. And how about this one? This is a scenario that is probably all too familiar. You get, say, 10 positive comments on something you did, 10 pieces of great feedback. But one person says something critical. Which one are you going to be obsessing over at 2 in the morning? Yeah, that's negativity bias. Our brains give massively more emotional weight to negative experiences than they do to positive ones. And you know why? This is basically a leftover feature from our prehistoric past. Think about it. Back then, ignoring a potential threat, like a little rustle in the bushes, could get you killed. Ignoring a pretty flower? No big deal. So our brains evolved to be like Velcro for bad experiences and Teflon for good ones. It's an ancient survival alarm system that in our modern world just kind of forgot how to turn off. And mostly, it just leads to a lot of anxiety. So, okay, we've seen how our brain can glitch our perception of reality and how it lays all these traps in our thinking. So, what do we do about it? Well, in this final part, we're going to see how simply being aware of these bugs is the first, most important step toward debugging our own minds. And that brings us to a really crucial final concept: cognitive dissonance. It's that deeply uncomfortable feeling, that internal itch you get when you do something that doesn't line up with who you believe you are. Maybe you see yourself as a fundamentally honest person, but you just told a lie. That conflict right there, that creates a ton of mental tension. And here is the brain's go-to fix for that tension. Instead of changing the behavior, which, let's be honest, is hard, it changes the story. That lie, it wasn't a big deal. The person you ghosted, well, they were actually being too clingy anyway. See, you rationalize your actions until that uncomfortable feeling goes away. It's this powerful automatic defense mechanism that keeps our self-image intact, but often it comes at the cost of genuine self-awareness. So after all of this, what should you really take away? First, and this is huge, remember that what you see and feel isn't a direct photograph of reality. It's an interpretation, a simulation. Second, you have to know that your thinking has built-in biases. Questioning your first instincts, your gut reactions, that's not a weakness, it's a huge strength. And finally, and this is maybe the most important point of all, just knowing that these glitches exist is the first and most critical step to overriding them. Awareness really is your superpower. So I'll leave you with this one question to really chew on. It gets right to the heart of cognitive dissonance and the stories we tell ourselves. Are my actions reflecting who I truly want to be? Or am I just storytelling my way into comfort? Because being awake to how your brain rewrites your own plot, that's the difference between living an intentional life and just being a character in a story that your brain is telling itself.